Hello and welcome to Money, 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 your personal finance date with me, Surabhi Upadhyay. Now, this is a very, very special show for me because it is giving me the opportunity to connect with you on all things finance, money and wealth after a long, long gap. So very happy to be here and happy to be connecting with all our viewers back on Money, Money, Money. Well, we kick things off on a big, big debate today. That debate relates to the role that finfluencers, financial content makers, financial influencers are making on social media. The impact that they're making on digital channels, their relevance and role in spreading financial education and awareness, and how perhaps they now need to be regulated. There's been a growing clamor. Of course, a couple of misdemeanors have been highlighted as well in the recent past, and SEBI has come out with a consultation paper. This consultation paper came out just a few weeks back, where SEBI proposed certain sweeping changes, including foremost, completely disconnecting all SEBI-regulated entities, whether it's stockbrokers or mutual funds, with any finfluencer who chooses not to get registered with SEBI. So if you want to participate with financial product manufacturers, you need to get registered. That's the simple message in one line that SEBI put out in its consultation paper. Now, it's been open for public debate and comment for the last couple of weeks. And by this weekend, SEBI is supposed to receive all of those sort of suggestions or comments. And then we'll eventually move towards the final shape and form of this regulation. So what is the way forward? We've heard a lot of back and forth, and today on this panel, we have representation from all stakeholders. Let me start by introducing my guest. Very popular and well-known face on YouTube, Rachana Ranade, is joining us, and she, of course, represents the Finfluencer community, a huge sort of sweeping community which is now reaching out to digital audiences, cutting across age groups, especially, of course, the younger audiences. Representing the financial sector, we have with us Swarup Mohanty, CEO of Mirae Asset Investment Managers, and also Gagan Singla, MD of BlinkX, which is JM Financial's latest fintech platform that they're setting up. And then representing the advisory community, the small breed of registered investment advisors, is Mohit Gang, who's of course been on the show. You've heard him several times in the past many years on a lot of very good sort of content when it comes to advisory on how to manage your money. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. This is an important debate and one that we need to have. Public discourse is very important on this aspect. So, I want to start by getting my panel's first thoughts on the regulatory paper, this consultation paper that SEBI came out with, where SEBI essentially said that get registered and then deal with SEBI-regulated entities, otherwise complete disconnect. Rachana, what did you make of this paper? I think it was just 2-3 pages in total length. What are your first thoughts?
I think this is definitely a welcome move for regulating this whole industry. The only thing we should understand why this came in. And for that, when I read the consultation paper very carefully, if you move to point number 2, which talks about the background, in that point number 2.4, there are two major points what SEBI is really concerned with. Number one, it is about people who are unregistered entities, including influencers, who are trying to entice people. And number two, their problem is if the disclosure is not given about the monetary relationship between the unregistered entity, including influencer, and the other entity who is paying. So I think the second point is pretty easy to steer. We just need to have disclosure requirements which SEBI gives out, and we as influencers or other people who want to continue this, they absolutely comply with the disclosure requirements. The first point is a little bit tricky, where it is mentioned that people are trying to entice the followers. Now I think a proper distinction needs to be made between what do we mean by enticing people to trade and what do we mean by educating their followers. So I'll just give a quick example for that. If I'm making a video about top 3 finance ratios, and if I talk about, let's say, debt to equity ratio, PE ratio, and ROC, after making the video, I say that, okay, these are 2-3 examples. And then I say that if you want to kickstart your investment journey, you need to have a demat account. And for that, link is there in the description box. Now, ultimately, if people are going ahead, they are opening their demat account, and if some brokerage is earned out of this, then I am getting this income as a byproduct. That is not the whole reason why I am creating this video. So having this as an income should not be a problem according to me. See, the whole point that I'm making is enticing people is a problem. तो ये बीमारी है, इसको ठीक करना चाहिए. तो प्रॉब्लम ये हो रहा है, अभी लोग बोल रहे हैं कि बीमारी है क्या, इंसान को ही खत्म कर दो तो बीमारी ऑटोमेटिकली खत्म हो जाएगी. That should not be the thought process. We should address as to what is the problem, and that should be taken care of, is what my thought process is.
Rachana, fair enough, but let me present a counter argument that I think a lot of people in the financial community are also making. A lot of the registered advisors are also making that there has been, I don't know if I can call it mis-selling, but there has been maybe some amount of abuse where trading workshops are being held, get rich with these 5 stock tips, attend a master class and, get to be a master of futures and options trading instantly. So yes, there is a community that is educating, but there is also a community that is out to make money. And, somewhere there is this gray area. So, what would you say about the prevalent practices right now? Not you, you're speaking for yourself, but in general, the practices that you see around in the Finfluencer community.
I think problem that even Madhavi ji pointed out in one of her conversations is that those influencers or other unregistered entities who are saying एक दिन में करोड़पति बन जाओ, एक दिन में लखपति बन जाओ, this is like 100% accuracy F&O strategy. This is what that needs to be curbed. And unfortunately, there are people who are doing this. Now the problem is that because of these few people, the whole influencer community is being put under the villain category. Okay, so I personally believe that in every single profession, there are going to be good folks, there are going to be bad folks. We can't actually weigh them on a same weighing scale. You need to take into account what is the problem that these people are creating and address that rather than putting everyone into the villain category.
Okay, fair point. Let's take this on to the rest of our panel as well. Swarup, let's bring you in because what we've seen is that, let's face it, I mean, a lot of the product manufacturers, whether it's mutual funds or even brokers, and I'll take Gagan's view on this, you all love tying up with influencers, right? It's good for the business because you reach out to younger audiences and, these connections are happening. The problem is it's all happening underneath the surface, a bit murky. We don't know whether what the influencer is saying is just genuine education or whether there are certain interests at play. What do you think? Your first thoughts?
Surabhi, first of all, welcome back and thank you so much for having me up.
Thank you.
You talked about it being grey. For me, it's absolutely, there is nothing grey about this.
Okay.
Please understand, we work in a fiduciary environment, and in the fiduciary environment, there is a regulator. And there are two types of people in this environment. There is the lawmaker and there is the law follower. The lawmaker is SEBI, all of us are law followers. There is no ambiguity on this. And number two, when you handle somebody else's money, you have to be very careful of what you say, how you act. And there is a lot of difference. I think Rachana said it herself. There is a lot of difference between educating and selling. And that's where the problem is. There is, this would have been any problem if there would have been education and full stop education. There is not a thin line, but a big line between the statement, let me tell you how to invest in mutual funds, or let me tell you how to become rich with mutual funds. In our environment, when you look at the people within our environment, it's not only do they disclose that they are paid, they are also disclosing how much they have to pay. The MFDs now disclose how much they are paid, right? So this is not about non-registered influencers. It's all about registered influencers also. I don't agree that this is about non-registered. The regulation should be correct about both sides. Yes, anybody talking about this space has to be registered. That is a given. Now, within that, the code of conduct for registered people has to also come in. I mean, today we go to a movie, it's very blatant. Somebody picks up a cigarette, comes this big statement that cigarette smoking is injurious to health. But that is not happening. And that is where the regulator steps in. And whenever the regulator steps in, it is a complete law. It does not differentiate between who's doing right and who is doing wrong. And that's how it should be. So time had come when this excess had to be corrected, and I'm very happy that there is some law to it. At least some sanity should prevail, because the kind of commitments that were going out on behalf of products, I don't know if they were backed by money or not, on the surety of money being made in a completely unsure environment was getting a bit too out of hand. So the regulation is welcome according to me.
Okay, got that. Let's bring in Gagan as well. Gagan, because on one hand, I mean, one aspect is, okay, suggestions or hints about buying a certain type of fund or a certain fund which can, make you rich. That's the disclosure that we're talking about. The other thing that we've all seen happening is, in the middle of a video, perhaps there can be some sort of a suggestion to use a particular platform. Now, I know that you guys are setting up a fintech platform at JM Financial as well. I think it's called BlinkX, right? So tell us, how can this be navigated? First of all, as an industry participant, would you want to ride on Finfluencers? How important is the digital medium for you? And if yes, and what's the way forward? What are the rail guards or guardrails rather that we need to put in place?
Yeah, see, first of all, I think we should look at this as a very, very positive move, not only from the side of players like us, but I think the influencers should be very happy, because if you are getting regulated, it basically means that you have become a very large force now, right? You are in the eyes of SEBI itself, means that you are very important now. So from that perspective, I think everybody should be happy, because all the influencers should be happy that now they are being actually seen by SEBI, right? In terms of using the digital platform, obviously using the apps, the trading platforms, the KYC and all we used, the kind of regulation that SEBI is bringing, it is not stopping anybody, right? It's not stopping the influencer from doing anything, right? It's a matter of making sure the disclosures are there. For example, any industry like finance or pharma is heavily regulated, right? Because there's a lot of sensitivity in it. In finance, the raw material is money, right? Therefore, there's a lot of sensitivity. And same is pharma, right? Doctors have to be very registered practitioners, right? So therefore, I think what SEBI is bringing is making sure that, as Swarup said, lot of disclosures, lot of clarity to the users, right? If you look at the spirit of the law is that we want to protect the value of the consumers, right? To protect the consumers. They should have all the disclosures. They should have all the clarity of what the user is saying, what the influencer is saying. And when it comes to decision making, you can always use digital and social media to get information. You can use it for getting to know a lot of knowledge, right? But actually, finally, when you take decisions, you should always get a consultation from somebody who's registered, who is an official practitioner, who is a certified practitioner. That's what happens across the board in any sensitive industry.
But
so I think it is okay to use social media for information, but decision making always has to be with somebody who's certified, be it a researcher, be it a RIA, whatever, right?
But I guess, Gagan,
we use digital for reaching out to
But Gagan, in a world that has converged so fast in the last 10 years, I think that's easier said than done. On paper, you can say that only use social media for communication and information, and use Mohit services to take that decision. But I think that's easier said than done. We can say it on TV, but in practice, I think that's the challenge. But we are going to talk.
All of us,
Sorry. Yeah.
All of us hear from our friends ki take paracetamol, crocin, or antibiotic. But finally we decide the medicine, you speak to a doctor, right? so that is also in the hand of the user, right? You may hear from a lot of people, but eventually you want to call a doctor and check ki main kya loon.
Fair point. No, fair point. And that's where I think as customers, consumers, investors, we need to get more aware and more savvy as well, and not sort of believe everything that's spoken blindly. And that onus is on the investor. Completely agree with that. But I think the first part of this discussion has established that our panel is in agreement. More disclosures are needed wherever there's money being exchanged in return for perhaps promoting a service or a product. It needs to be disclosed. So Rachana, you're on board with that as well, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, superb. So we're on agreement in the first half of the discussion. The second half of the discussion focuses on the more tricky area. This business of registration. If influencers want to get registered, then what's the way out? What are their options? And are those options even viable? We take a break and come right back. Welcome back. Here with us on Money, Money, Money. And today we are having this debate on the Finfluencer regulation issue. What is literally the way forward? Now, Mohit Gang, who of course is an RIA, registered investment advisor, he's been listening to the panel very, very patiently. So Mohit, let's start with your view. Now, we've heard in the last couple of weeks, we've really heard the Finfluencer community say that, look, registering as an RIA is too difficult. You are registered as one already. You tell us if that's true or not, and what's the problem?
Okay, so you are firing the bullet right at me, Surabhi.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for having me back on the Money Money show. Look, I won't mince my words on that. I think RIA is an extremely onerous regulation. If you want to set up like a corporate entity, then the regulations are fairly stringent. You have to have a minimum net worth of 50 odd lakhs, and then there are fee charging rules around it. Every proper thing, every proper advice, everything which you speak has to be digitally recorded, has to have a client consent. You have to maintain records, physical and digital both. You have to go through audits. You can charge only a particular amount of fee, so on and so forth. And the regulations are endless. There are certain set of regulations around advertisements. There are certain set of regulations around disclosures, what you can show on your website, what font you can show, what color you can show. You have to show the number of complaints, and you have to register at scores. And now there is a different platform called ODR to be registered. So it's endless. It's an endless set of regulation. And my view on this always has been very, very uniform, Surabhi. I think I kind of want to take the middle path here, which means that not every advisor can be categorized or branded as under the same label. And I'll just take a minute to explain this. There are advisors who do derivatives, there are advisors who do stock advisory, and then there are advisors who do only mutual fund advisory and products like maybe deposits or bonds or few other things, right? And I think the regulator somewhere needs to classify and categorize these into different entities and bucket them into different brackets, and perhaps have some differentiating laws around it. A person who's just doing a mutual fund advisory and giving you allocations across different categories of mutual funds, maybe debt and equity mutual funds, and simultaneously giving you some deposits or some sovereign gold bonds, I don't think so he can be labeled and categorized under the same set of rules as a derivative or a stock advisory guy. And I think the problem overall is emanating from the fact that these regulations have been uniform, and the kind of discrepancies which one sees on social media handles of people outbursting and giving you trading calls and all those option master classes, so on and so forth, has been more related and pertinent with one set of people who do more of trading and stock advisory. So I
Got it.
think painting all of them with the same brush is where the problem is coming from. You can very well have differentiating criterias and therefore have differentiating rules, and make it a little easier for people who just want to give you personal finance and perhaps, let's say, mutual
Sure.
fund kind of things.
Got it. I think that ties in with the point that Rachana was making earlier, that if some people are sort of, going about these slightly quote-unquote shady activities, you don't sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. But Rachana, let's come down to then brass tacks, the nuts and bolts. Now, right now, you can register as a RIA, registered investment advisor. You can register as a research analyst if you want to do stock advisory. So two categories are available. Do they work for the present set of influencers? Is that not fair? And if not, then why not?
So first of all, I think again going back to the objective of this paper, which mentions that it restricts the association of SEBI registered intermediaries or regulated entities with unregistered influencers. So I personally feel here point number one is it should not be only unregistered influencers, it should be unregistered entities including influencers who should be brought under the ambit of this registration. Because if people are delivering content, it is not necessary that it will be only through YouTube or through Instagram. On television, it could be through other areas as well. So if rules were to be made, they should be made for all. That is the first point that I want to make. Second thing is, should we be registering as an RIA? So I personally feel this is not applicable. Reason is very simple. Now, if I were to go to the RIA regulations, it very clearly mentions that the term investment advisor is defined in the IA regulations, which means any person who for consideration is engaged in the business of providing investment advice, la la la. So we as finance content creators, we don't charge any person for giving whatever, putting out whatever content that we are putting out. So I personally feel investment advisor is not applicable to a majority of finance influencers. If you are giving one-on-one advice, then definitely any unregistered entity should have an RIA in place, right? Second one, the point that you asked is about research analyst. Now, if we were to go to the definition of research analyst, it is very clearly mentioned that it means a person who is primarily responsible for preparation or publication of contents of research report, providing research report, making buy, sell, hold recommendations, giving target price, and offering an opinion concerning public offer. Now, I feel again, if there are certain finance content creators who are making buy, sell, hold recommendations, they need to be registered as RA. If I'm just putting out statistical summaries of certain topics, then it does not fall under the buy, sell, hold recommendation. If I'm giving price targets, I should be registered as RA. If I'm not, I should not be.
Okay.
Now, one point is a problematic area here. What it means that if you are providing a research report, still you will be considered as a research analyst. And for that, I tried to check what is the meaning of research report. In that, it is again clearly mentioned that it could be a written communication or it could be also electronic communication. Both are covered. But this also specifically says that what things are not included in the research report. Now, if I'm giving general trends about securities market, that is not a research report. So no need for RA. If I'm giving discussion about broad-based indices, not a research report. If I'm giving commentaries on economical, political, market conditions, not a research report. Important, I feel, if one more point, technical analysis, because a lot of content creators do give out content about technical analysis. Here it is mentioned that technical analysis relating to demand and supply in a sector or the index, that is also not considered as a research report.
Sure.
There is an FAQ, also question number 5, if I'm not mistaken, which says that if you are giving buy, sell, hold call after doing technical analysis, then that will be considered as a research report.
Okay.
Okay, but if you're not giving that, still it will not be considered as a research report.
Got it.
So, and my final point, because this is very crucial. It says that if you are giving statistical summaries of financial data of the companies, it is not considered as a research report. So just as an example, if I'm doing a statistical summary for a specific company, I'm putting out a video about an automobile stock. What am I doing? I'm doing a 10 to 12 minute video considering the annual report, considering the management discussion and analysis, considering the phone calls, considering the quarterly analysis, and I'm just putting that as a statistical summary. That is not included as a research report.
So this is interesting. No, Rachana, this is interesting because right now you're quoting from current regulation. I mean, what is the current definition of a RIA or a RA, research analyst? And you're saying that it's a lot of it doesn't prohibit. So perhaps, one needs to look deeper in the details and then see what's allowed and what's not. Let me come back to the finance industry professionals as we start wrapping up. Swarup, earlier Rachana made the point that, this is not consideration. Any Finfluencer is not taking money from the audience to give out that piece of content, which got me thinking this is very more similar to MFDs than mutual fund distributors, because distributors don't charge us, for the advice that they give. They are getting compensated from the mutual fund houses. So then is there a category to open up? Is there a reason to open up that category as well, that if you want to talk mutual funds and you want to suggest on mutual funds, somewhere it's like MFD, and then do the disclosures and you can be a social media MFD, if that makes any sense.
Mohit is on the show, and I'll speak on behalf of the RIA community also. RIAs are supposed to take money from the investor.
Yes.
How many RIAs actually take money from the investor is a big question I'm asked, right? So let's keep that aside. I mean, coming to the main debate, is that should they be registered? Yes, they should be registered. Now, at this moment, in the discussion paper, there are 2-3 avenues. I always believe that the discussion will continue and things will evolve. When you look at the whole, the environment under which this entire thing sort of operates, everybody sort of comes into every area. Everybody is a research analyst in some way. Everybody is a mutual fund predictor in some way. Everybody is on the social media. I'm making a very general statement, okay? Hence, one has to clamp down in some way of getting them into the entire environment. Now, registration at the beginning of the discussion was, should it be easy? Try becoming a distributor for selling soaps or anything from a large FMCG company. Is it easy? No, it's not. And we are talking about selling fiduciary responsibilities here. As the money starts growing bigger and bigger, these processes will become tougher as we go. The way we used to register as an AMC in 1999 or 1998 is not the same as we registered in 2023. And that's how it should be. Because it is, again, coming back to that same point, it is somebody else's hard-earned money. And when we are doing that, these processes have to be stringent, and there will be no separate sort of thing. The law will be one for everybody, is the way law works. And that's true. I can't say that, one mutual fund has done something wrong, hence why am I being penalized? It doesn't work like that. Let's be very clear with that. And that's the environment, and we should be very clear of that environment.
Sure, okay. Okay, got that. Last word with Gagan. Gagan, we have 10 seconds literally left on the show.
Completely
from a broker
with
standpoint, I mean, considering that so many people want to get into DIY trading, we want to do our own stocks, we want to buy new securities, what's the way forward?
I completely agree with Swarup in the sense that all of us lock our houses because 1% people are thieves. So we cannot go with the fact that it has to be differentiated, right? And we cannot differentiate also. Everybody has to lock. So we have to do it so strongly. In the context, if you see, nobody can offer any incentive to open Demat account. It appears very, very strong law, but all of us follow that, right? So in the context of the laws that we follow right now in broking, this is a very, very, not a very strong law. The kind of laws we follow right now, even more stringent.
Okay.
So in my view, completely kind of look at it as a positive step.
Got that, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I think the debate is still wide open. We haven't seen the official regulations just yet. So we'll wait by for that. Hopefully our viewers will also be very aware and keep watching this space. And Mohit, I don't know, RIA is a separate show, is a separate debate. And I think we'll have you and Swarup back for that one very soon as well. Thank you very much for joining in. It's a wrap on the show. Really appreciate your time. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in as well.